many of my introductions, you will hear me say I've done hundreds of faces of all the races. And that actually is not an exaggeration. I literally have done hundreds of faces of every background you can imagine. Now, while currently most of my work is done on talent, models, actors, performers, on production, I have many years experience working for the most major makeup brands and high-end skincare. And of all the various people of all the backgrounds that I've had the pleasure of working on, some of the same questions arise. And one of the top ones is about foundation. Hi, I'm Crystal, your very own personal beauty pro. I'm a professional makeup artist, hairstylist, and skincare specialist also. My primary work is in what's called advertising or commercial. I also do some editorial work, which is the kind that you would see in magazines, either in print or digital. And I've worked in various aspects of the industry. I've done hundreds of faces of all the races. One of the things I absolutely love doing, in addition to doing what I love, is educating, entertaining, and inspiring through beauty. And here we call it edutainment. Today I'm going to be answering some of the top questions and concerns regarding foundation. But first, I want to give the girls a little pretty pep talk about foundation, especially those who are new to makeup or have a fear of foundation, or who have been taught to fear foundation, which is a video I want to get into later about this fear of makeup in general. It is my personal philosophy that any girl, maybe 16 and up, should definitely know the basics of foundation. You don't have to be a heavy makeup wearer, but a basic makeup wearer is a basic foundation of grooming for any lady. And it kind of makes me sad and breaks my heart when people are 25, 30, 70, just getting over their fear of makeup and learning what a joy it was when they could have been experiencing the enjoyment and the benefits all along. If you have a fear of foundation, overcome that fear. Have fun, life is short, and makeup washes off. Whether someone is brand new to makeup or has been doing their makeup for a while, I will often get this question: how do I make foundation look natural? People are so afraid of that. And how do I make it last and look beautiful throughout the day without settling into fine lines, wrinkles, smile lines? I'm going to give you some tried and true tips that I know for a fact work, because they have to in my work. And if you practice them, they are likely to elevate your foundation game, help you overcome fear of foundation if you have that, and take your look to the next pretty level. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be focusing on liquid foundation, and I have a full video on beautiful powder foundation application tips, so check that out. Let's start with one key that some people don't realize is super important: the tool to use for your foundation. There's all kind of effective methods to apply foundation. You can use your fingers, a brush, a sponge. But I have found in my experience over the years that the type of foundation and your skin type and texture are what determine which tool is best to use. In general, I have found that fingers or a brush are best for the first application, and then sponges are great for a second follow-up to really perfect the finish. There are different kinds of brushes depending on the viscosity or how thick or thin the foundation is. This first one that almost reminds you of a hairbrush or a toothbrush design is the artist brushes. They have been around for years. The design was quite innovative at the time that it was released, and it is still a beautiful brush brand. And this particular one has an almost velvet feel to the touch. It has this nice big broad brush head, so you cover a lot of surface. Great for when you're in a hurry, but also great for getting maximum coverage. Because it's so dense, it doesn't drink as much of your product and as much of the money as you spent on your product. I love this for liquids of all types and also for getting creams to move and blend smoothly into the skin. This one has a similar effect. Because it's so dense, it doesn't drink up too much of your product, so it applies a nice amount of the product to the skin. And because it's so plush, it also has the benefit of application and blending at the same time. This foundation brush is by Hakuhodo, beautiful brush brand. One of my favorite methods for any foundation type is a good old-fashioned paddle style synthetic foundation brush. This was a limited edition 189 by MAC, but many brands make a similar brush now. Makeup Forever has a good one. Great for getting a smooth, even application of your foundation. And even if this was the only brush you had, after you smooth and blend and buff down, you can do one final stipple or patting motion, and any brush strokes you might have will just disappear. This is the MAC 132. I love what a light, airy application this gives and an airbrush finish it gives. It also applies the foundation in an even way, and because the brush head is smaller, it gets into tight areas really well. Sonia G has such a magnificent understanding of how brushes work and what an artist needs in application. She just has a great instinct for brush design, and this looks like a fan brush. It's shaped like a fan brush, but it is a base brush, and you can also use a dense enough fan brush for the same purpose. But this is fabulous for applying foundations. It gets into those tight spots, but it also gets into those broader areas beautifully. It applies liquids and creams in a nice even layer, and then because it's plush, it has a nice buffing and blending action. Now, one of the things you've probably heard a gazillion times is blend. But what does that really mean? You want to work your foundations into your skin. Now, because we use foundation to perfect and even out the skin, there is a tendency to leave as much visible as you possibly can because you want the foundation to cover imperfections. But the real key to a long wear and a perfected finish is to buff it into the skin thoroughly. And yes, you will see some of the coverage disappear as you buff it in and the pigments and the carriers blend into your skin. But that's what you want for your base layer. Something that really adheres and clings to the skin. And in a sense, that first layer of foundation is your true primer on which that second layer can build and give you the coverage that you want. I have said this many times that foundation and makeup in general is primarily two things, a pigment and a carrier. What does that mean? The pigments are the colored powders that give products their shade. The carrier is whatever is mixed into the pigments to help it apply to the skin. So if it's a liquid, the carrier might be water or silicone oil or other powders. That's a bit deeper for an everyday girl, but I'm sharing that point so you can appreciate what is happening when you're applying your foundation. When you're applying your foundation, that carrier, the silicone, the good ingredients, the nourishing ingredients, those things are blending away or eventually evaporating off, either or. And the pigments which remain behind are the things that give you the color and the coverage. You want to buff in that carrier really well so that you leave the pigments clinging to the surface. So that's one of the many reasons that blending is really important. So don't hesitate to really buff in that first layer of foundation, and you may find that your entire look last longer. That brings us to sponges. Today I have my beauty blenders. These are actual beauty blenders. I know that people actually use the name beauty blender and beauty sponges interchangeably now, but the Beauty Blender brand they really have something special going on over there. It's not patented for nothing. You can use these wet or dry, but here's another major key alert that although these are designed to be used damp and they give this beautiful airbrushed HD finish when they are, sometimes it's best to use them dry depending on your foundation formula. Not all foundations love being blended in with something damp with water on it. Sometimes that causes maybe patchiness, see-through areas. Maybe you notice the foundation is lifting even as you're pressing it on. So get to know your foundations that you're using and be aware as to whether they are applying better when you swipe them with a brush or whether they are applying well with a sponge. Also determine whether your foundation likes to be applied damp and it still looks good, or whether you notice you get a better, smoother finish when the sponge is dry. But one thing that's good, whether the foundation is liquid or cream, is after you've applied it with a brush to come in one last time and gently dab or stipple or press. Dab it over the entire finish. That will absorb any excess carrier that I mentioned before, and that will leave behind a beautiful, smooth finish. We've talked about tools or what to use to apply it. Now let's talk about skin, the most important part, skin prep. How to prepare your skin to receive foundation and to help foundation wear well on your skin. Now, primers have become super popular over the last 10 years or so. A lot of primers are simply silicone and moisturizer, and they don't always work well in helping your foundation to cling and hold and last. So it's very important that you get a high quality, well-designed primer if you truly want to extend the wear of your foundation. Now, I have found that well moisturized skin can often be a good foundation. But if you have challenges with your foundation traveling into maybe when you smile and things of that nature, then a primer can help. Again, if it's the right one. For smile lines, a popular question that I get, and everybody of every age has a smile crease. So that is not something, I know so many ladies ask me questions, what about mature skin? What about mature skin? And skin is skin. There are skin types, but regardless of age, good product and good application are good product and good application regardless of your age of your skin. One of the tricks that works really well is one that's obvious but not often used, and that is to mind the amount of product you use in the smile area or forehead wherever you have creases. Minimize and really blot those areas well with the sponge with the technique I just mentioned. Other thing is prime those, but not just with any primer. I have found that an eyeshadow primer works super well in those areas. A tiny bit of product. And again, like the face primers, a lot of eye primers are just silicones, or they're designed maybe to lighten the shade of the eye so that the colors look more true, but they're not necessarily designed to extend the wear of the shadow. It has to be a good eye primer for this trick to work, and you just use the size of a pinhead on each side. One of the ones I'm holding in my hand is the MAC Prep and Prime, their face and their eye, the 24-hour extend base. Beautiful. Another brand, Urban Decay's eye primer is exceptional. Smashbox eye primer is exceptional. Just dabbing a thin veil right before you apply your foundation. In addition to MAC, there are a couple of other face primers that I do enjoy using on myself and on talent. The jelly primer formulas that came out in recent years, when they are good, they can be really good at helping makeup to cling to the skin. Again, take care not to slather these products on. Sometimes that's the tendency. You want to really apply it strategically, primarily in the center of the face, in the areas that really need it. And this is another key that I don't hear often, and that is massage your products in, whether it's moisturizer or whether it's primers. You will hear a lot of people say, let that sink in. Well, products really don't sink in per se without assistance. You want to massage your products and press your products in until you almost no longer feel them to the touch. Also like Tatcha's, the liquid silk canvas, and I do like the cream version primer that Tatcha also had. And I really do love Sicily's Double Tensor. Now let's talk about something that could be hindering you from having a natural looking, long wearing foundation application, and that is your foundation. One foundation that almost has legendary status at this point, and it is well deserved, is Estee Lauder's Double Wear Stay in Place makeup. I've spoken about this before. I love it, especially when I need long wear, bulletproof application, and if I am not going to be with the talent or the client all day. I apply this, I know it is going to last them and it is going to continue to look flawless. Because it's so flawless, it sometimes gets a reputation for not looking natural or being mask-like, but that absolutely does not have to be the case, especially if you apply the tips that I mentioned earlier about thoroughly blending. Another one that has status at this point is Lancome's Tonti Doll Ultra Wear, and when they say ultra, they mean it. Promises up to 24 hours of color wear and comfort, and that is transfer resistant. I can vouch for all of those things. Sometimes when I have on-camera engagements, I will reach for this or the Double Wear myself, but it is something I would not hesitate to use in pro work. What I love about this is that it's very beginner friendly. In fact, it's friendly to people of all levels of makeup, and it's so lightweight on the skin. It applies and melts like a dream, and yet even though it's so super lightweight, it gives you this beautiful, healthy, natural, perfected finish. Speaking of beautiful, easy to use, and lightweight, La Mer comes to mind. This goes on like a second invisible skin, but it gives you a perfected finish. Sicily's Phyto Teint Expert. Very similar in formula to La Mer. It promises all day long flawless wear, and it really does deliver. Relatively new favorite, Very Valentino, the new Valentino foundation. It's been out, I think, about a year. This is beautiful. This gives you that high-end, expensive skin look. Your skin looks flawless and luxurious, but it does not look like a mask. It still has a natural satin, and it's long lasting. Ultra Le Temps by Chanel, and it says it's ultra wear, all day comfort, flawless finish foundation. Every word on this bottle is true. One of my favorite makeup artist brands, NARS. NARS has a couple of foundations I love, but I do believe my favorite just might be the Natural Radiant Long Wear Foundation. Lightweight, natural looking, flawless, long wearing beyond belief. Once you've applied your Stay Put products, you want to help them stay put by setting. I have a mega face powder video that I will link here also. It's the little things you do with your technique that really make a difference. One thing people love to do is apply powder with a nice big fluffy brush. Not only does it feel good, it usually gives you a beautiful air spun finish. However, if you have challenges with the length of wear or with your makeup creasing, then you want to do a little more when it comes to setting with powder. You want to really press and merge that powder in with powder puffs. You want to apply your powder and you want to make sure you tap off any excess powder so you don't have powder particles flying everywhere. And you really want to lay and press and lightly roll. Lay and press and lightly roll. When you press and roll the powder, it merges with the foundation and it absorbs that carrier and it locks that pigment down onto the skin. So if you've just been dusting on powder and you find yourself oily shortly thereafter, or your makeup breaking down, try a bit more of a technique when you are applying your finishing setting powder so that you truly get a set and not just a temporary mattification. These tips, tricks, and techniques are not tips that I'm guessing at or that I hope or think will work. They are tried and true over the years, and they work when you work them. I look forward to seeing you in the very next video, but until we meet again, keep it pretty.